Welcome to Center Heist Productions. It is November 15th, 2024. Please hit the likes and the subscribe down below in the right hand corner. Muchly appreciate that. And thank you to my supporters. And yeah, if you're a supporter, please pass it on to your friends and family and share it with others as well. And if you come across the channel and you step on, please don't leave without subscribing and hitting the likes. I'd muchly appreciate that. I really, we're building an integral channel here for the Habs, and we do reviews of the games and discuss matters that are pertaining to the Habs. And this channel, we tend to stick clear of clickbait, and we stick to trying to avoid the gossip because we have so much of it out there. Reporters want stories, and they kind of put stuff out there that's just a lot of hogwash, and some people bite for it and run their things off that. I don't. Okay, so thank you for joining me, and we're going to get right to it. Last night's game, Montreal was in Minnesota. I expected, actually, I was. I kind of knew this could be a worse outcome than what it was. The final score was 3-0 Minnesota. I thought um, it could have, the Habs didn't play outrageously terrible. They just couldn't score when it came down to it. So 3-0, they get shut out. Just can't find any offense or breakthrough. And Gustafson looked pretty solid for the Wild. So we're going to get right down to give you the stats and summaries, box score, basically. So Montreal and Minnesota, this was a tight game. They really did tighten things up, both teams. No score in the first. Second period, Minnesota finally puts one in. This was a goal that there's no doubt Montembeault should have had. And this has been our problem. I even, the second one, okay, power play type deal, but in the third one, that's to be expected, open net, and no surprise. So 3-0. So really, to me, it's 2-0. Those open nets, whatever, it doesn't mean a lot. So Gustafson had a solid game. Monty was Monty. Again, there's certain saves our goaltenders just aren't making. Boldy gets the winning goal. Um, so we get Kirill Kiprasov had an empty net goal and an assist. Philip Gustafson, that looks like such a good trade they made back when they did it. 19 saves for his first shutout of the season, of course, and it would, of course, be the Minnesota Wild's shutout first one to beat the Montreal Canadiens 3-0 Thursday night. Matt Boley and Marco Rossi also scored. Boley opened the scoring in the second period when he tapped in a goal mouth feed from Marcus Johansson. Rossi added a power play goal in the third period of the Wilds. So really, no real outrageous surprises here. 3 stars, pretty much the way they should be. Boldy gets a goal for a +2. Um, Gustafson was a second star, 20 saves for the shutout. Got to give it to him. Uh, Faber was the third star, and he had a +1, no points. So again, scoring summary, no scoring in the first. This was solid, tight defensive game. Second period, we get one goal. It was still a pretty solid game, and Montreal was still had their a chance to get back into this. Going in, second period goal, 12:43. Matt Boley assisted by Johansson and Krill Kaprasov assisting. And yeah, so we go into the third period. We're only down 1-0. This was still a game. So as much, one thing we can say, we're seeing improvements ever so slightly improvements in the defensive system, and that's good. There's been improvement. I can see an improvement in all the kids, and that's a positive thing to take out of it. 12-19, Marco Rossi gets one on the 4-minute power play, assisted by Spurgeon and Declan Christian on the power play. Crispus Kaprizov gets the open net when he basically assisted by Frederick Goudreau on the empty net. Yeah, so Matheson couldn't tie him up, and it was right in front of the net. So shots are 28-20 in favor of the Wild. Hits 22-14 in favor of Montreal, although you'd never know it. Face-offs 26-23 in favor of the Habs, and finally the Habs power play went dormant with no 0 for 3. Uh, Wild get 1 for 3 minutes in the penalty, even at 8. Giveaways 10-9 for the Wild. Takeaways 2-5 for the Wild. Block shots 16-11 for the Wild. So, just really, when you look at this game, they basically dominated this game very much so. So what more could you say? It was a Minnesota Wild domination game over the Habs, and we're gonna have to figure this out down the road because Minnesota's had, I think they've had our number for about 13 years, somewhere in that approximation. So it seems to be a mental thing. I don't know if it's a mental thing, for both teams, winning wise with the Wild and the Habs figuring they haven't been able to beat this organization. We will have to cross that road. I don't see anything, you know, outrageously alarming other than we need a goaltender. I think that's got to be our first and foremost move to be made. I think it's one way, enough's enough. We're getting soft goals let in on us. It's still, even though we played a better tight defensive system, a game played against the Wild. Even at that, Monty still, yeah, yes, he performed better than Primo has, but still leaving weak goals in that he should have. And that's the problem. You're getting goals scored from these goaltenders that are just obviously goals that, and the Habs can just not get on the right foot with always being down in the 8 ball when their goalies can't come through to make a save they got to make. And that doesn't help your cause. So for me, I think Monty needs to be placed in his appropriate role, which is a backup goaltender. And Primo doesn't even belong in the NHL. So let's make the move. There's nothing to lose here. If you send him on waivers, other than if he gets clears waivers, you got a problem. You might have to send him to the uh, Tri River Tigers or whatever they are. The other, because I wouldn't let him take a job from the two goalies in Laval because he's 25 years old. He's at the point where you should have seen something by now that caught your eye, and it hasn't, and it's not going to work out for Primo. If someone wants to take him, let him take him, or you add him to a trade package because we absolutely need a veteran goaltender. Don't know why we didn't jump on the opportunity when Kakinen became available. That would have been the perfect guy, and I'm sure he could have taken the starting role over Monty easily. I don't think that's even a challenge, but that seems to be what Monty needs anyway, is someone who can push him. And I think, between what I'm not sure what the Habs are going to do in that department, but they missed out with the Kakinen thing, and he would have pushed him at least. I know he's not at his prime anymore, but he would have pushed him. Or are they thinking about bringing up Connor Hughes? Because I don't think you want to bring. Dobish has been great as well as Connor Hughes. Both of them have been great. I wouldn't touch that. I actually think I would leave that alone and go make a trade for a veteran goaltender that's proven and get Primo the heck out of town. He's done. He's an AHL goaltender. Let's accept it. It's done. There is no more to see. Even with Sam Montembeault, at best, Sam Montembeault is a backup goaltender. We tend to get carried away as Habs fans. I've still, no matter how good I've seen it of, the odd performance in a couple of years' time, I still always realize that Sam is not a starter. He's not a starter. I'm sorry to say that. I think that was the one luxury you had with Allen pushing him. You're not getting that push from the other goaltender anymore because he's not NHL material at all. So, like I said, they both seem like um, good kids, but good kids don't make you a great goaltender, right? So let's be realistic. It's time to move on from Primo. Either you put him in a package, but that should be Montreal's first thing. If you want to, you got to have somebody that can bail you out on a shot here or there. And we just don't have that. And that's got to be deflating for the coaches. It's got to be deflating for the team, knowing, man, when we're in that crunch, we're just not going to get that save. We're going to be starting the game behind the eight ball. And that seems to have been the problem here. I wouldn't be concerned, Habs fans, other than, I think down the road you'll see Jack Guy, because I know we all want to see, that fire in him. But I think right now what I like that I'm seeing out of Montreal is the youngsters. Now we're fine. It's been what, about 3 games, something around that number, that we've seen a change and an improvement in the defense core, and that means the youngsters especially. And I've seen an improvement in all of them since they have tightened the ropes. Whatever they're introducing here seems to be working. I like the fact that Jack Guy is focusing. He's playing much better positional hockey. Yeah, I know we're all waiting to see that grit, but at least he's not chasing players and throwing himself out of position, which he was doing. Got to work on his front of net presence for sure. I think that's the one area that I think that we can recognize that for a guy his size, he'll learn he's got to learn to use his size a little better in front of the net, because he should be able to clear the front of the net easily. So that's still a little area, but major, major improvement in him. Struble, Gooley, um, even Lane Hudson, just major improvements. They're not getting they were, and that goes for the veteran defensemen too, Matheson and Savard. They were running rampant wildfire just way too many times. They were, you know, going into the offensive zone and leaving the defense without any communication to their wingers, that knowing if they were going to cover for them, and we were getting odd man rushes. That, thank God, has been, they've kind of pulled the reins back on the defense, and that's working much better. We are in a position where there's going to be some things, but we're only in our third year of the rebuild, so the got to calm down on the panic button. We do have issues to have to face at some point, and I think number one is you got to get a real goaltender, because these two are just not going to cut it. If you want to have any improvement in the standings, you got to get a real goaltender. That's absolute. Yeah, and we know we got some promising youngsters like Dobish, um, Fowler. Now Fowler's got to be proven. We got to remember this. Fowler and anybody else who hasn't played pro hockey yet, there's no guarantees here. But we do know Dobish is headed in the right directions. He's playing pro hockey and he looked good in preseason. But I wouldn't bring him up to this mess. There's too much to be corrected. And I think Montreal should focus on correcting it first before throwing a kid. Now, Connor Hughes is a different story. I still wouldn't want to mess with that combo. They're doing so well in Laval. That's why I'd rather them get a veteran goaltender. But Hughes at least has much more experience, where you could see them pulling him up maybe. And maybe that's next year's plan, to have Dobish and Fowler in Laval. Maybe that's the catch there, or we'll see what happens, right? But Connor Hughes is the veteran guy who could be brought up if they're, because I really don't know what we're looking at here, why we haven't grabbed a veteran when they've been on the waivers. Kakinen would have been ideal for the situation, but that didn't happen. So what Montreal's planning, I'm not sure, but enough time's been wasted on Primo. In last year, okay, I could see that they didn't want to risk. I would have let him move, and the rumor was that it was Jersey. I think I would have let him move before even Allen, but they didn't. But now there should be no questions for management. It's time to get him out of there. He's just, I mean, it's bad enough that neither one of them are doing great, but Monty, at least you could see him being a backup goaltender, where you can't see that in Primo. So that they got to correct first. Then you got to look at getting a gritty forward veteran that can help, because we got to start hitting. This team's got to become much more physical. I still stand by that the 3 best players in Montreal all season long so far that have given you consistent effort have been, and I'll say it, reiterated over and over, Brendan Gallagher, Jake Evans, and the rookie Heineman. those kids, Heineman's, battling on the boards. I mean, we're seeing moments where Slav and Suzuki are playing better now. That's good. Doc, I don't know whether it's Doc's injury or what, um, but he's not where he should be. We know that he's not where he was before he got injured. Whether that's the injury, I don't know, or if it's the lack that there's no talent, because there's no way Newhook should be on a second line. He just doesn't add up to a lot. A lot of it that we don't really have true second liners after Doc and then Lonnie, and they're both. Once Lonnie gets back, it'll be a help, but it's going to take. He's going to be in a similar position to Doc, where they got to get over their injury, back into condition, and we don't know time level, frame wise, how long that will take, but they'll be the true second liners you'll need to add to that. Honestly, I don't, we don't really have a true anybody uh, who fits the second line. They're all third and fourth line players. However, I did like seeing them give Evans a chance. He earned it, but you can't stay there. That's the catch. You got to find a center. There's no doubt we need a center. In my books, I'm convinced center has to happen in this process. Would be nice. But I would honestly, when Lonnie does arrive, I would have Heineman on that second line. At least he deserves, him. Same with Galley. Even Galley deserves an opportunity there. Gallagher, to me, has earned, we know he's not a second liner anymore. Um, but truthfully, I think, it is what it is. But I would give Heineman and Galley a shot on the second line, because at least, like Evans, but I still think Evans should go back to the third line at center, just to because they had such a good thing with him, Gallagher, and someone else being, and whether it's Anderson or whoever it was. I think it was Anderson, and Anderson's playing better for Anderson, not what we expected when we picked him up, but much better. I like him in the penalty kill role. That just seems to be his best strength. Um, but other than that, really, I just think this is a team that doesn't have a second line, and we don't know time frame what the story's going to be on Doc and Lonnie. That's going to take, in my opinion, 2 months for that to gel. So that's going to be the other avenue. We'll have to wait it out until it gels. That's just the way it is, until we can start making some moves at the trade deadline in the off season to bring in some talent that's true top six talent to that top six. Like I said, there are positive signs of Suzuki and Slav improving. Caulfield, I feel bad for, because you put him on there out there with Newhook and Evans. How's that going to work for his? These guys aren't up to Caulfield's talent level. So no matter who's brought down, like between Doc, Caulfield, and Slav to the second line, it's never going to pan out, because those guys don't have the I. The rest of the guys that they're thrown in with don't have the IQ. That's why that second line is struggling, because there's no one that can bring in their level up to those guys. So Caulfield will suffer, Slav would suffer, and so would Doc, because there's no one to work with that are at their levels. So that's got to be corrected at some point. But overall, at least we have some positives. The defensive being tightened up is a much better look on the Canadians. And when we look at Lane got ran at last night, Lane Hudson, he's starting to get those run ats. He's going to have to defend himself a bit. He's at that point, and you're an NHLer, but we'll have to also have a response at times in his favor. We will want to see those moments of what Jack Guy does, but I am glad, I will say, even though we're not seeing that out of Jack Guy right now, truthfully, I'm glad that he's focusing on learning how to play positional hockey. I think that's more vital to his game right now. And once he has it as second nature, then he can focus on when it's, and maybe a get together with Chris Nyland, so Chris Nyland could teach him. And I think Montreal should welcome that. Chris Nyland's the perfect guy that knew when you use that and how to use that. And I think that's something Jack I does need to know how to do. But however, I am quite impressed that Jack Eye has played much better hockey now, focusing on what his issue was, playing positional. He's playing much better, and I think he's got to, as long as he gets that down to second nature, the bodyguard thing can come at any point. They're not in a winning position right now, anyway. So that being said, thank you for joining me. I think we have Columbus on Saturday. That's going to be interesting. That could go either way. Who knows? But we're hearing a lot of rumor. I don't even want to feed into the rumor. I just hope that goaltending is addressed somehow, because it's time for us to move off of Primo. And like I said, Monty's barely, a backup. So that being said, we need to address that at any point if we plan on moving up. I don't mind at all being in the bottom five for a top draft pick, because we're still in the rebuild. We're only in year 3, so that doesn't bother me. But I think, when this off season does come, then we'll start wanting to see major improvement at some point. Some improvement, that is. There's still going to be ups and downs, though. We just got to be patient and let this rebuild work, because it's going to take time from fans. So thank you for joining me. We will catch, like I say, at least we're playing respectable. We just don't have the offense to compete either, and we got to get the monkey off our back in the future with Minnesota. But when you're counting on one line, that's a lot of responsibility on one line only to get all your goals. So thank you for joining me. You've seen it here at Center Heights Productions. Remember that. Thank you for following. Please follow, subscribe, hit the likes, and share. And we'll catch you in the review of the Habs versus Columbus. God bless.